thought the quiet lakeside community would be the perfect place to heal, to breathe, to finally live in peace. A decorated Navy SEAL, he had survived battlefields most men couldn't even imagine. But nothing prepared him for the battle waiting right outside his front door. One evening, men in fake uniforms showed up, claiming to be enforcing community rules. Their words quickly turned ugly. Their eyes burned with hatred. And then one of them struck his wife. That moment lit a fuse no one could stop. What happened next wasn't just self-defense. It was a reckoning. For Marcus, life after service was supposed to be simple. He had spent 15 years in the Navy SEALs, moving through dangerous missions across the world. Now, he wanted nothing more than to live quietly with his wife, Angela, in a small ranch house by the lake. The place looked like paradise. Mornings were filled with the sound of birds echoing across the water. Angela tended her garden while Marcus repaired fences, smiling in a way he hadn't in years. Neighbors waved politely, but Marcus noticed something else, stares that lingered a little too long. Whispers that trailed off when he approached. At first, he brushed it off. Maybe it was just small-town curiosity. Maybe they weren't used to a black family moving into their quiet neighborhood. But Angela could feel it too, the unease, the way some residents crossed the street instead of greeting them. Marcus reminded her, "We've faced worse. This is our home." But homes are supposed to be safe. And safety, as Marcus was about to learn, can vanish in an instant. One warm evening, as the sun painted the lake gold, two men walked up their driveway, dressed in cheap-looking uniforms with badges that didn't quite shine right. They claimed to be part of the Homeowners Association enforcement team. Marcus knew immediately something was wrong, and he was right. The men didn't knock, they demanded. They barked accusations about improper renovations, about Angela's flower garden being against regulations, about the family not fitting in. Their tone wasn't professional, it was personal. Marcus tried to reason. We've paid our dues. We followed every rule. But the men weren't there for rules. They were there for power. Their voices grew louder, drawing a small crowd of neighbors. Angela stepped forward, trying to de-escalate, her hands calm, her voice steady. That's when the insult started. Words soaked in racism, spit out like venom. Marcus felt the old tension in his muscles, the familiar readiness from years of training. But he kept his cool. For Angela. For peace. Then one of the fake officers smirked, leaned close, and called her something so vile Marcus's blood ran cold. And before Marcus could react, the man's hand whipped across Angela's face. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Angela stumbled back, clutching her cheek, eyes wide in shock. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some lifted phones, recording. Others just stared, frozen. Marcus's chest tightened. He had been taught control, discipline. But in that moment, something inside him snapped. The men laughed, feeding off the silence of the crowd. One stepped closer, taunting Marcus to do something. The world seemed to slow. He could hear his own heartbeat. He could see Angela's trembling hand on her face. And he knew this wasn't just about her or him. This was about every time someone thought they could break a black family with intimidation, with violence, with hate. The fuse had burned to its end. Marcus moved. Fast. Precise. Years of training surged through his veins. The first man barely saw the strike coming. Marcus's fist met his jaw, sending him crashing to the ground. The second lunged forward, but Marcus deflected the attack, twisting the man's arm until bones cracked like dry wood. Gasps turned into shouts. The fake enforcers who had strutted in with arrogance now lay sprawled and broken, their badges scattering in the dirt like cheap toys. Marcus's chest heaved, but his eyes never wavered. "Touch my wife again," he growled, his voice carrying across the stunned street. "And you'll answer to more than me." Neighbors who had once stayed silent now muttered nervously, some backing away, others clutching their phones tighter. The masks had slipped. The truth was exposed. These weren't protectors. They weren't officials. They were predators dressed in cheap fabric, fueled by hate. Angela stepped beside him, her cheek red but her eyes fierce. In that moment, they stood not just as husband and wife, but as a wall that would not be broken. Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone had called the real police. And as the flashing lights drew near, Marcus knew this wasn't the end. This was the beginning of a fight bigger than fists. The fake enforcers were dragged away in handcuffs, exposed as imposters who had terrorized other families in the community before. But this time, they had picked the wrong target. Marcus's background as a Navy SEAL and Angela's courage had not only stopped them, it had forced the neighborhood to confront an ugly truth. For days, the videos spread across social media. Millions watched outraged. Some praised Marcus for defending his wife. Others questioned why it had taken so long for people to speak up. But no one could deny the raw truth captured on camera. Racism was alive, right here, hiding in plain sight. Angela healed, but the scar wasn't just on her cheek. It was in her heart. Yet she refused to stay silent. Together, she and Marcus spoke out, demanding accountability, pushing for change in their community. This wasn't just about one slap. It wasn't just about one family. It was about a system that allows hate to wear a badge, even a fake one, and walk unchallenged until someone stands up. Marcus didn't want to be a hero. He just wanted to be a husband, a protector. But in that moment, his fight became something greater. The question is, how many more families must endure humiliation, violence, or fear before real change comes? How many more times must we see this story replay before we decide enough is enough? If stories like this matter to you, don't let them fade. Share them, talk about them, and keep them alive. Because silence is the fuel of injustice. And if you believe in standing against it, make sure you subscribe, so more stories like Marcus and Angela's can reach those who need to hear them most.